The High Court has now heard how the Home Secretary, the then Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, used the Henry VIII powers to lower the threshold for police restricting protests to make it easier for police to criminalize peaceful protests. Suella Braverman was found to have acted outside her powers and to have failed to consult properly over regulations that would lead to such prosecutions. And hundreds of protesters have faced prosecution since Suella Braverman redefined the nature of protest. And you've got to go back to the original word, to protest. I protest my innocence is a phrase which is often wheeled out, and that preserves the original meaning. To protest is to shout. And so a silent protest is ridiculous. A protest that is agreed is fairly absurd. People have a right. And a minor hindrance to people's daily lives. So protests under Suella Braverman's rules can only present a minor hindrance. People who have been prosecuted under these new rules include Greta Thunberg, and who was acquitted in February, and Lord Justice Green, Mr. Justice Kerr have said that the government, and Suella Braverman, of course, overreached themselves in defining serious disruption as merely more than minor. It's about the bad use of language. It's about vague language, and the Rwanda law is studded with this rubbish. Already, one of the raft of Rwanda acts has fallen foul of legal tests in Northern Ireland. I have no doubt the other acts will fall foul of national courts, not international courts, national courts, because they are drafted by twits who don't know what they're doing. And it's extraordinary that one of them, the Home Secretary, the ex-Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, who's busy running around the place trying to redefine the history of her tenure, it's extraordinary that she qualified in some form as a lawyer. And what she seems to have presided over is a lot of knee-jerk posturing. And I particularly remember two scenes in parliamentary committee rooms. One, where she was flipping around in a book, trying to find the place as if she knew there was something she was looking for and couldn't find it. And eventually she gave up because there was nothing. She hadn't read her brief, is how I would interpret that. She hadn't done her homework. And the other was the Tim Lawton question on the 22nd of November 2022, I think, when he posited the hypothetical question about an unnamed male migrant trying to get to the UK where he had family or friends from an unnamed African state with good reasons to fear for his life. And when he pointed out there were no safe and legal routes that he could use to make that journey, Suella Braverman conceded that he could make his way up to the north coast of France and then take a boat. And when he arrived on the shores of Dover, he could then claim asylum, and that would legalize him. Well, only for a couple of days, because a couple of days later, the Nationality and Borders Act came in, which defined any form of crossing over the Channel as illegal and automatically barring the migrant from claiming asylum. So what we've got now is a huge host of migrants locked up in our country, some of them in hotels because that's cheaper. Oh, you wonder why it's cheaper? Well, because if you put a migrant in a house, you pay a migrant £45 per week, subsistence. If you put a migrant in a hotel, you pay a migrant £9 subsistence. It's cheaper. And also deals have been done with hotel chains well into the future. It's cheaper. Don't listen to this rubbish about how much we are paying out and how expensive it is to put migrants in 4-star hotels. They aren't 4-star hotels. They're hotels which are run down and which are making an absolute buck because they've done deals with the Home Office. And it's all about the propaganda and the sleight of hand. So, the ruling today is very interesting because it's the second ruling now that has targeted a law invented by Suella Braverman. I think in the end, really, she only produced 3 major laws during her time, but she twiddled with a few others. This is one of the twiddlings. And you have to ask, if there's only a small number of things that a second-rate minister can produce in their time in office, and if half of these, let's say she's done 4 laws, three and a bit, if 2 of those have now been found to be wanting, that's half her professional responsibility is now judged to be in doubt. So much for Suella Braverman. And there are people in the comments section who say that I hate Suella Braverman. I don't care about Suella Braverman, but I do care about the way that she has maligned ordinary people, whether in this country or abroad. I care about that deeply. And yeah, there's a clear person to point a finger at and say, you are responsible. Suella Braverman is responsible. Of course, these laws were passed with the approval of the Parliament, but the Henry VIII, rubric, the Henry VIII powers didn't require the approval of Parliament. So on this one at least, Suella Braverman stands alone as stupid.